Hello and welcome to We Are Brookland Park. I'm your host, Jay Strobel, the city manager here at Brookland Park. Our guest today is Don Barry, the director of golf at the city's Edinburgh, USA public golf course and also our Brookland golf course. Don has worked at Edinburgh, USA since 1988. He has also won Minnesota PGA Section Player of the Year 17 times and the Senior Minnesota PGA Section Player of the Year 7 times. Don has won several Minnesota Senior Open titles and recently had a victory in the PGA Minnesota Senior Open Championship. Also notable is that Don was the 2002 National PGA Professional Player of the Year and is a member of Minnesota's Golf Hall of Fame. Welcome, Don.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So just have a few questions for you about Don Barry, the golfer, the person, and then we'll turn our attention to talk about Edinburgh, USA golf course. So how did you get into golf? You're obviously a very accomplished golfer. You've been at it for a while, but how did you get into golf in the first place?
You know, I grew up playing all sports. I loved playing hockey, baseball, football, and it just naturally started playing golf. My grandpa played a lot of golf, so he kind of got me into it. My parents didn't play golf. I was the oldest of six, so I kind of led my brothers to the golf course. We lived by Gross Golf Course in Minneapolis, and I would bike over there at 6 in the morning and stay all night, and or stay until the evening, and just really fell in love with the individual part of golf. You know, playing team sports is great, and you make good friends, but you could have the best game of your life and the team loses type thing, and it really isn't that way in golf. It's kind of all up to you, and there was something about that appealed to me.
Was your grandfather the one who kind of helped coach you or teach you, or were there other folks?
No, he wasn't a very good golfer. He loved golf, and he loved that I played because he'd bring me out and things. And but there was a lot of really good golfers at Gross in that era. A lot of my friends that ended up being golf pros, and they were all a little bit older than me. So I kind of learned from them, and then. I think when I was in about ninth grade, I started taking lessons from Craig Warrian, who was at that time was a pro at Sundance Golf Club, and then he went to Elk River and then Rolling Green, and then he came here at Edinburgh. He was the pro in 1988 when I started, and he hired me as one of his assistants. So he gave me a lot of schooling about my golf game and the business growing up.
Yeah, it's always nice to have those mentors and folks to help you out.
I had a lot of mentors.
Yeah. Did your grandfather ever get to see you, did he get to see you become a golf pro?
Yeah. He lived out of state, but I remember the Tape Mark Charity Pro-Am is one of our 4 majors in Minnesota, and it's a very big tournament at Southview in West St. Paul. And the first time I won that was in 1988, and he actually was here that week for my brother's wedding, and he got to watch me play the last day and win the tournament. So I gave him the trophy, and I think he was proud of that.
Wow, what a great moment to share with your grandfather. So earlier in your career, since 1988, you started working at Brookland Park. So why Brookland Park? Why Edinburgh, USA? Sort of how did that come about?
You know, I was working at Gross Golf Course at the time, and Craig was the head pro here, and he asked me if I wanted to be one of his assistants, and I had played it once, and it was just so unique. It still is, but at that time it was really unique. It was big and clean, and it was like a diamond, in public golf in Minnesota, and public golf courses in Minnesota before that were kind of old feeling and rustic, and here was this just incredible new golf course that unlike anything I had ever seen, and the opportunity to work there was just so great. I had to do it, and I just loved it. Fell in love with the people very quickly, the members and the staff, and just really wanted to be here.
Well, that's great. So you've seen a lot change since 1988 in the city of Brookland Park and at the golf course. Tell us about that. What sort of comes to mind? How has the golf course evolved? How has the city changed?
You know, it was when the course first opened. It was really geared towards residents. It was built for the residents. The patron card, you have to buy a patron card. You had to be a resident to be belonging to any of the clubs. You had to be residents of Brookland Park. That's kind of mid to late '90s. That started shifting as the demographics in Brookland Park changed a little bit. We realized we had to expand our. I used to call it expand our boundaries a little bit to start pulling in. Maple Grove, Champlin, Plymouth people into the fold. So that's one big change. The golf course has kind of stayed the same. We did the big renovation in 2014. Other than that, none of the holes have really changed. The grass is still the same. We haven't done a big regrassing that a lot of golf courses have done since then. And the golf course used to be very hard. I think it's a little easier now. We still haven't, there's still a lot of water. Don't believe me, there's trouble to get into. But when it first opened, it was very difficult. There were no houses on the course. And if you can imagine, all those areas were houses. It was just really thick grass and trees. And you lost a lot of balls. Rounds were very slow to start. And I think a lot of it was just the uniqueness of the facility. That if you grew up playing Keller or Gross or Hiawatha, it was kind of basic golf. There were trees. There was a little rough. Here it was kind of a target golf. You had to hit it in where you're looking, or you're either going to hit it in the water or thick woods. So the woods have been cleared out mostly, and we feel like it's just a really nice. Kind of combination of a little bit difficult, but it's certainly more playable than it used to be.
So Don, can you share a little bit about how you've seen changes in golf, especially the last few years?
Yeah, I feel like golf's getting a lot more popular by a greater diversity of people. I've really noticed in the last year or two, and especially this year, we've had many more people of color playing golf at Edinburgh and hitting balls. So I think they're trying to learn the game, and I think they're interested in the game. And I think that golf is a sport where when you get the bug, you're hooked for life, and you're going to keep playing. And some people never get it, but the people that do are always going to play golf. And I'm very optimistic for the future of golf. It's always had a reputation as an old white man sport, and it really isn't anymore. I don't know if it ever was, but it really isn't now. And one day at the golf course, and you'll recognize that it really is a game that people of all different backgrounds enjoy it and want to play it.
Yeah, well, that's, given Brookland Park's population, it's great to see that there's folks from all backgrounds, probably all ages. Yeah. All race and ethnicities taking advantage of such a phenomenal course, so it's good to hear.
I think they're getting into it.
Right. And so with the name Edinburgh, USA, people think of maybe Scotland, right? Edinburgh and Scotland, and potentially links courses. Is there any connections to what type of golf course you might find over in the British Isles versus what you have at Edinburgh?
Yeah. When we first opened, a lot of people were calling it a links course, especially the front nine. We had vast bunkers, huge bunkers on the front nine that have since been reduced or not eliminated, but a lot of them have been reduced. I never really saw the connection to links golf. I think we called it that mostly because of the name. The Edinburgh USA, the reason that name came about is because the clubhouse was designed after the Edinburgh Castle in Brookland, in Scotland. So that's where the name came from. So people, I think, just made that leap from Scotland to links. And the back nine is very non-links golf. It's more northern Minnesota. You're in the trees and you have lakes and things like that. There were a few holes. There still are a few holes. When I think of links golf, I think of our third hole. It's very links-feely with the mounds on the left, and although there's a lake on the right, which you don't see in the British Isles very often. But I think the links thing really came from the clubhouse more than anything.
Okay. when I was in college, I did spend a month over in England, and we got, I was in a class, and we got a weekend off, and me and about 7 other guys went up to Edinburgh, and then we went up to St. Andrews, and so I got to play not the old course at St. Andrews, but I think the Jubilee course, one of the other courses there. So yeah, that was a big thrill. So I was just kind of curious about that historical connection, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I've been to that castle in Edinburgh. So obviously we are still in the COVID-19, and that's had a big impact on the golf industry. What are some of the safety precautions we put in place at Edinburgh, even the last couple of months, or what's in place today? And how has actually that been a benefit to us in terms of COVID-19, and how has it been more challenging for us in terms of how people golf today?
When we were allowed to open, it changed virtually daily. And there was a lot of safety precautions that the golf industry put in immediately in March down south. So if you're thinking Arizona, California, Florida, they were playing golf then when this hit. And I think to kind of be allowed to continue playing, they made it as safe as possible. Some of the things that they did is they put foam in the cups so that you'd leave the flag stick. So that you weren't taking the flag in and out of the hole. The flag stick would just stay there. All ball washers were removed. All drinking fountains were removed. Rakes that were removed. So we went along with that right away. Actually, the first 2 weeks we turned our cups upside down so the liner of the cup would stick out of the hole, and your putt would hit the liner, and then that would, you'd assume it went in the hole. 2 weeks later, we changed that to put the foam in the cup so the ball actually did go in the hole. The CDC has since come out with, right now to get it, it's more droplets, more social distancing, and less touching. I think if you look on the CDC website, it'll say that it's highly unlikely you're going to get it from a surface, especially outside. So once that came around, and the governor has since taken all those restrictions off. You can have flag, you can touch the flag, you can have rakes on the course. So we, when all that came down, we took the foam out of the cups, and we've put rakes out and ball washers and things like that. We did. The first month and a half we were open, we had single rider carts only, so you had to. It was one person, one cart. That really became unsustainable as the course got very busy. Just say like mid to late May when it really started getting busy, and when it warmed up. It was fairly easy when it was cool because people were fine walking, but when it started getting hotter, people wanted to ride, and we were running out of carts very early in the day. One day we were out of carts at 10:40 in the morning. So because of that, we purchased dividers that we can put in the cart so that two people can ride together, and there's like a shield between the driver and the passenger. So that's really helped. So now we're back to two people riding a cart, and mostly golf has been really thriving during this. I mean, if you just think about all the pent-up demand of people wanting to do stuff. You can't go to a Twins game. You can't even watch a Twins game. Most people aren't going out to dinner, things like that. So golf is kind of the one thing that you can do outside that's relatively safe, and it's kind of had a revival here. We do spend a little bit more money right now sanitizing things. We're sanitizing. So when a cart comes in after being used in the morning, we clean it and we sanitize it with disinfectant and things like that. So, that takes a dedicated person, things that we've never had to do before. But for the most part, COVID has been pretty good to the golf business.
Yeah, that's great. My understanding is highest number of golf rounds at Edinburgh for both May and June since we started keeping track back in '98.
Yep.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did close to 7,000 rounds in May, which is over 1,500 ahead of our 10-year average. And then in June, we did over 7,200 rounds, which is I think it was 1,300 over our 10-year average. So just crazy numbers. The range business has been, last night we were booked, if you looked out at the range at 10 to 8, it was full.
Wow.
People not quite standing in line waiting, but close. I mean, every stall taken. So range business has been the highest ever. Rounds of golf have been the highest really ever. So it's been, people have time on their hands and they want to be outside.
Yeah. Well, I know the course is playing just beautifully this year. About a month or so ago, I had an opportunity to get out there with some other city managers around the metro area, and we have a annual tradition of getting together. And fortunately, it has been at Edinburgh for many years, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it that way. But it was great to play out there, and in fact, I was in one of those carts that had the plastic divider. So when I saw some of the safety precautions, so I know that makes people feel better when they're out playing a golf round, that we're doing what we can to keep people as safe as possible. So that's good.
Yeah, when people see us sanitizing carts, it gives them a level of comfort that they know that we're doing everything we humanly can to keep them safe.
Yeah. So I know in the PGA they're starting to play tournaments again, but you actually participated in the Minnesota Senior Open Championship back in early June. So
yep, that was the first event we had.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
So how was that playing with COVID, and how did that change things in a sort of a competitive setting versus more of a recreational setting?
Yeah, it was strange. It really was. It was very different to play with, where you couldn't take the pin out. A couple of years ago, the USGA allowed that pre-COVID, thankfully, that you can putt with the pin in. Most players don't really enjoy that on short putts. 20 to 40 feet, they just leave the pin in, but usually people like to take it out on shorter putts. Well, now that you're not allowed to, that was certainly different. There was no rakes in the bunker, so they're playing lift, clean, and place in bunkers, things that I never thought I'd see in an actual golf tournament. And some of the really strange things was there was no scorecards. They weren't passing out scorecards, so we were doing it online, keeping track of scores online. And if you wanted to have a scorecard, they sent you a scorecard. You had to print it off and bring it with you. So it was different, but everybody just loved the fact that we were finally able to play golf and compete and see everybody. So the positives far outweighed the few negatives.
And you came out victorious?
Yeah.
Was it a playoff?
Yeah, I won in a playoff in that against a good friend of mine who's the head pro at Mendakota Country Club in St. Paul. So I kind of gave it to him at the end and then beat him in a playoff. So.
Yeah, I bet that was a big thrill. So you've had continue to have, and I expect will continue to have a great career in golf. What's been some of your biggest highlights? What are the things that really stand out for you as Don Barry, the golfer? Not the golf pro at Edinburgh, USA, but from your competitive side of things.
I've been fortunate enough to win a lot of the major championships in Minnesota. I think if you think about the Minnesota State Open, the Minnesota PGA, the Minnesota Golf Champions, and the Tape Mark, I believe I've won 24 of those total. So those stand out.
So just like Nicholas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
24 majors.
Not quite Nicholas, but and I've played in a fair amount of major championships. I've played 5 PGAs. I've played a U.S. Open. I've played 5 senior PGAs, 6 senior PGAs maybe, and a U.S. Senior Open. So I've got a chance to play with the greatest in the world and seeing them up close. I played in the PGA at Hazeltine in 2002. And made the cut and played the last round with Tom Watson, him and I.
Really?
So yeah, if you want to, what's the one round that I kind of remember the most? I would say that was probably it. I played okay. I didn't play great. I shot 74, but he shot 67. So if you go in the golf shop, there's a picture of him and I on the 18th green, and his scorecard. So I always look at that and look at his score and what he shot, and it was just really fun to play golf with him. I mean, he's arguably he's certainly one of the top 10 greatest of all time, and maybe top 5. So to have a chance to play with him close to my home, because there was a lot of people watching, and it was funny because there were people watching me, not him. I mean, a lot of members were out, and people were making comments like we walked up to one tee, and a good friend of mine was back there, and it was kind of a secluded tee, and it was just him and the volunteer. And I'll never forget, we're walking back there, and my buddy looks at the volunteer and says, "Hey, who's that playing with Barry?" and Watson heard it and just thought it was so funny. Started laughing, just tongue in cheek. But so yeah, that was a really fun round. The only negative to that round was I'm a fast player and he's a fast player, and we ended up playing I think it was like in 3 hours and 20 minutes. So in tournament golf, that's unheard of. We were like the third group out in the morning, and it was very fast. And if you ever had one round that you hoped was slow, that would have been it. Just to spend more time with him and talk to him and things. But we had a great time, and it was just really fun to walk the fairways with a guy like that.
Yeah, to savor every moment.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
How about, is there one or two golf courses that have sort of stood up beyond Edinburgh, USA, obviously?
Yeah.
That really stand out as impressive courses for you?
I've got a chance to play Augusta National. A friend of mine's a member there, and about 20 years ago he brought me down there, and we played for 3 days. I've played Pebble Beach a fair amount. I played a U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. So those are kind of the top two. I did go to Scotland for 5 days once. It was a very short trip, unfortunately, and we played St. Andrews and Carnoustie, and that was fantastic. I tell people playing, and you didn't play the old course. You played Jubilee.
No, but it's sort of, they're all next
they're
to
all
each
next
other,
to each other.
and it's all.
I had a chance to play the old course, and it wasn't a tournament or something. I was just playing with buddies, and it was really a strange feeling on the first tee. It was like almost as nervous as I've ever been on the first tee playing St. Andrews. I mean, that's where it started. It's been there for 700 years as a golf course, and standing on that at St. Andrews it's a surreal feeling that this is truly the home of golf. And I mean, Mary Queen of Scots played there. If you think about that,
It's been around a long time.
Yeah, so that was just. I actually liked Carnoustie better than St. Andrews as a pure golf course, but the experience of playing St. Andrews is like nothing else.
Yeah, because it's like the home of golf, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So the story goes, me and other 7 guys went up there, went to the clubhouse. And I asked if we could play the old course, and they said, the guy in a Scottish accent said, "Yeah, not even God himself could get on the old course today." So they probably saw us college kids who are like, "No way, you guys can."
Yeah, we got a tee time in 3 months for you if you want.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Okay, so Edinburgh, turning our attention a little bit more focused on the course of Edinburgh. So some people get confused at times. They think it's a private course or a country club, but it's really a public course. And so tell us, if somebody's interested to play golf there, how do they get a reservation? How much does it cost? If they want to ride, what should they expect if they haven't played the course before? Or if they have played and it's been a while and they want to come back, how do they learn a little bit more about how to?
Well, certainly on our website, we've all the rates and everything. But most people call, which we like, because we want to talk to them and give them the lowdown. We take tee times a month in advance for weekdays, so it's pretty easy to make a tee time if you plan ahead. 1 week in advance for weekends. It's very affordable. Non-residents with a card at $77, which by today's standards for a course of that quality is really cheap. We had a couple guys in last week who were just, and they live in Minnesota. We always get it when people come from Chicago or Atlanta or LA. They can't believe how inexpensive it is to play there. But these guys actually were from Minnesota, the Twin Cities here, and they played the course, came in and said, "You guys are charging way too little. This course is, $100 course. I mean, we're $77. If you look at some of the, the Rush Creeks and the Chaska Town courses are considerably higher than we are for cost. So we like to say it's great location, great layout, great rates, and it's it's designed by a world-renowned architect, Robert Trent Jones II, and it truly is in great condition. I mean, the golf course. I haven't played a lot of different courses this year. Other than our course, I think I've played 3 rounds at Edinburgh and maybe 4 or 5 at other golf courses, like Keller in the tournament and things. And I haven't seen any course that's nearly as good as ours. So it really is great condition, and the rates are real reasonable.
Yeah, it's a great value. And I know I've taken some friends to play there, not during work hours, but during, in the evening or the weekends, and they're just amazed that it's a public course and it's available to anybody who's interested. And we also have Brookland golf course too. So for folks who might be a little bit intimidated by jumping onto a big course like Edinburgh, they can play at Brookland. And you want to say a little bit about sort of what Brookland golf course is about, and kind of how those 2 courses kind of work together for somebody who's just learning to play the game.
Yeah, Brookland's been a great asset to the city and to our golf course, to be honest with you. I like to call it Brookland is a great place to get into golf and to get out of golf. So if you're beginning, whether you're a kid or an adult, it's a super good place to start. It's a shorter course. It's par 3s. It's not easy by any stretch. I mean, I stand on some of those holes. I've actually never played I played it like 25 years ago, but I go out there and, we drive around and look at it, and some of those holes are pretty intimidating how small the greens are. But it's a great place to start golf, and we use it a lot. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a group out. They made a tee time at Edinburgh, and it became pretty obvious early in the round that they weren't quite ready for that kind of golf course. They hadn't really played any golf before. So I went out and talked to them, and what we did is we brought them in, gave them their money back, called Brookland, and they went over there and played, and they were happy as can be. So and then it's also good for maybe a senior golfer or somebody who's not playing as much anymore who wants to play golf, but in a little more relaxed atmosphere and a little shorter course that they can still reach the holes and regulation and things like that. So and they've been busy this year too. They're having a banner year. So it's a really nice mix, the 2 of them together.
And they're even more affordable. I mean, it's very, very affordable.
You can play there for $10.
Yeah, very inexpensive. So back to Edinburgh, it's hosted a number of tournaments, right? At one point, it hosted the LPGA.
Yeah, we hosted an LPGA event from 1990 to 96. And then we had the national USGA National Public Links in 1992. And both of those were on TV. So we still have footage from ESPN for the National Public Links. It's really cool to look at those old videos of the course. So we've hosted the Minnesota State Open. I think it was in 2013. So we've had a fair amount of big major golf tournaments.
Do you think Edinburgh will ever strive to try to host one of those type of events again?
Yeah, I think we're really interested in trying to get an LPGA event back. The LPGA Tour they were highly successful in the 80s, early 90s, and they had a tough little stretch there, late 90s, early 2000s. You could watch a tournament, there weren't be a lot of people watching them and things like that. And it was strange because they had such great players back then, like Annika Sorenstam and things like that. But they've got a nice mix now of Americans and foreign players. And we've kind of talked to them a little bit about they really want to get back into the Twin Cities. So, yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully something happens.
Stay tuned. All right, that sounds great. And I also know that you're involved in some charity tournaments from time to time.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about?
Well, we host a lot of charity events, and I'm certainly involved with all those. A little closer, though, is, and it's mostly my wife. I don't want to take too much credit, but she's very involved, and I certainly am involved also with Hope Kids, which is an organization, and they have a tournament at Edinburgh every year, and it's been a great event. They raise a lot of money in a one-day event, and it's basically for kids that have life-threatening diseases. And Hope Kids is an organization kind of like Make-A-Wish, but Make-A-Wish is more like a one-time thing. You know, you go up in a helicopter or something one time. Hope Kids has hundreds of events throughout the year, whether it be suites at hockey games or race. They go down and watch car racing and just a ton of things like that. So we have an event that helps fund a lot of those things for kids. They rent out movie theaters, and kind of the premise around it is you have sick kids, maybe they're going through chemotherapy or something, and everything that the family does is around that kid. Well, a lot of times they have other siblings that are kind of being left out. So this gives an opportunity for the whole family to do things in a non-threatening way. They go to, they watch a premiere of a movie, and everybody in the movie theater is part of Hope Kids organization, and things like that. So the whole family can feel relaxed and have something to look forward to. They put on their calendar, hey, movie next Tuesday, wild game next Friday, and there's just always something to look forward to for them. And my wife does unbelievable work with that group, and I'm glad to do a little part of it myself.
Yeah, well, that's phenomenal. And whether you're a golfer or not a golfer, if you're interested in supporting Hope Kids, people can get engaged in that.
Yeah, it's a year-round thing. I mean, our golf tournament is a part of it, but it's a fairly small part of their overall fundraising. And but I mean, they do very well in their one day, and we're just happy that we can help out a little bit.
Yeah. So last year, D'Amico Catering became a partner with Edinburgh, and they have a restaurant inside the clubhouse called the Brookland. And do you want to share a little bit about what that partnership means for Edinburgh in terms of D'Amico?
Yeah. So the golf course is run and owned by the city of Brookland Park. The city owns the building, and then we lease out the food and beverage operation. So D'Amico is that provider. And it's been really unfortunate because they're coming up on 2 years now, and it's just in the 2 years that they've been there, we did a big renovation, a beautiful renovation when they first got there. So they really missed that first 3 or 4 months that they were there as far as the restaurant business, and then we opened and they did fantastic business last summer and last fall, and then COVID hit. Now
Right.
they're shut down again. So I feel like we really haven't seen the true value between the partnership quite yet. They've been there 2 years, and there's been a major break both years in their business. They've done great catering business. I mean, that's kind of their forte. They're really good caterers, and the wedding business and the meeting business and stuff has been really fantastic. And the restaurant was really good too up until they had to close down, and now. I think I have noticed it's been busier in there, but half full is full now.
Right. Yeah.
So it's been unfortunate. So I'm really looking forward to the next few years as we hopefully turn the corner on this and get back to normal, whatever that's going to look like, and reap the benefits of that partnership.
Yeah, I know. As part of the renovation, we have a new outdoor wedding venue space, and we did some renovations to some of the larger spaces inside where people can host a business meeting, they can host a wedding, they can host any type of large gathering. And D'Amico is known as probably the premier caterer in the Twin Cities area. And I know that they were looking forward to hosting for themselves a record number of events.
They've got quite a schedule of events scheduled, and every room in that building was basically touched to some degree, and it's The ballrooms are beautiful now, and the restaurant's beautiful. It's really nice, and hopefully in the next year or so we really start seeing the benefits of all that and having them on board, which is a big feather in our cap.
Yeah, no, they're a great partner, and they make an incredible quality experience, whether you're coming for lunch, getting something at the turn, or you're there for a larger event. So we appreciate that. So if you were to give one tip, maybe two tips for the average golfer, what do you see kind of that recreational golfer doing that you would say, if they were to just fix one thing or two things that...
Most, and this certainly isn't for everybody, but I've noticed most golfers, they've grown up playing others, just say baseball. You try to hit a baseball, the ball's in the air. It's easy to conceptualize hitting a baseball in the air. The ball's coming at you, it's high up. Golf is a little different. It's on the ground, and now you have to somehow figure out a way to get the ball in the air. And I think a fair amount of golfers go about it the wrong way. They try to lift it or almost scoop it up, help it up. And the what you want to do to hit a solid golf shot and get it high enough in the air is to hit down on it. And a lot of kids struggle with that too. They don't want to hit the ground. They don't want to take a divot. So when we have beginners, we just tell the kids, hey, take a club and bang it into the ground. Not even hit a golf ball, but just bang it into the ground a few times and get the feeling of the club hitting the ground and that it won't hurt. And that really is how you hit a proper golf shot. Is the club has to hit the ball on a downward path. So. If you watch the PGA Tour, every shot, the ball's hit first and then the divot comes after it. So that'll tell you that the club is still working downward into the ball. So I think if beginning golfers just kind of realize that you don't help the ball up, if you hit down on the ball, the loft of the club will take care of it and the ball will get in the air.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I'd like to hit the grass before the ball, so clearly I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. Well, you probably just keep your weight back too far, and the club's going to bottom out behind the ball. And what you really want to do is just like most sports, if you throw a ball, you step into it. If you hit a baseball, you're going to step into it. Golf's the same thing. You want to get your weight for a right-handed golfer from your right foot to your left foot, and not stay on your right foot.
So what's a typical day like for you out in the golf course? What does that look like?
You mean when I'm working there?
When you're working, yeah.
I get there in the morning, and I certainly have things in the back room that I have to do, budget things, answering emails, talking to corporate outings. I'm constantly doing things like that, but I really like to get out and see the people, whether it be behind the counter or what I really enjoy doing is when we have club events or corporate outings is I get in a cart. I just start on 18 and I just work backwards and I talk to every group on the course and just, thank them for being there or, tell a few jokes, give a few tips, things like that. And that's I see that as other than the administrative duty things, I see that as a lot of my role there is to just, be there and be seen and talk to people and make them feel welcome and hopefully they enjoy meeting the pro or talking to them.
Yeah, I mean, Donberry is synonymous with Edinburgh, right? I mean, it's been kind of that fit for a long time, and people come to Edinburgh a lot because of Donberry, and so I appreciate and applaud all of your work over those years, and the fact that you have that desire to have that personal connection with the golfers and the folks who are coming out. It really shows in the course and in the service we deliver. So I appreciate and thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean
that's a fun part of the job, meeting the people and talking to them, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, it's really in my mind, being in Brook Park for the last 5 years, Edinburgh itself. And you have really been one of the greatest gems of the city, and really are an example of excellence that we strive for here in Brookland Park. So we appreciate that, So my last question for you is, I want to know how I can go about getting those 100+ golf balls I've lost in the lakes over the last 5 years. Is your suggestion to get on scuba gear, Jay? In the fall, or what's
that'd be one way. Although probably the easier way is we have a guy that comes out in scuba gear, so we'll just pull out your percentage. It's amazing how many balls are hitting that water. The first year we were open, so there was no golf before that. So you couldn't say, well, some of them had been there 3 years or whatever. And on the 17th hole, they pulled out 40,000 balls the first year in 1 year. And it wasn't even a full year because the course didn't open until mid-May. So we figure there's at least 100,000 balls hitting those ponds in a year. If you think about 35,000 golfers, it kind of averages out to 3 per player per round. So yeah, next time they put them in these huge gunny sacks and just kind of lay them on the banks as the diver goes in. I'll sneak up on him when he's in the water and pull out a couple hundred for you.
Okay, maybe I'll write my name on him.
That's right.
Well, Don, we really want to thank you for
you
being part of this podcast today. It's been great to learn a little bit more about you, your history, and how you got into golf, and your success from a career standpoint, and then obviously how people can get engaged in Edinburgh. How they can get out, play around, or how they can go if they're looking to do a wedding that's coming up or some other catering event. How they can reach out to Edinburgh and DMECO and have that event there. So we thank you for that. We also want to thank our Zanewood youth for producing the opening music of this podcast. You can listen to all of the latest episodes of We Are Brookland Park podcasts on our YouTube channel or online at www.brooklandpark.org/podcast. Thanks again, Don.
Thank you.